Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for the positive response. This is the third part talking about Druidism, Bardism, the ancient rules and beliefs. Very different to this kind of modern sort of version, almost hippie druids that you see around the place. So please have a think about this, because one of the big differences is about the religion and how sin was dealt with, guilt, crime, punishment, afterlife, those things, very important. And bear in mind, me listening to this, that this ties in very closely with why Christianity began so quickly in Britain in the first century, because the early British Christianity, the apostolic Christianity, was based very much on these principles, reincarnation and no sin, that kind of stuff, which you'll see in a moment. It's only when the Roman Church came in much later that all those things were introduced. So bear in mind, we're actually talking about early Christianity as well as Druidism here. So of course, sorry from the King. This is that King Arthur conspiracy. Wilson and Blackett, Grant Berkeley involved. Right. So at the stage of being a human, the soul has now responsibility and has to live a moral life. The penalty for doing evil and wrongdoing is severe, for the wrongdoer would be demoted on the ladder of ascending life forms. This demotion would mean starting off all over again through the ascending pattern. The extent of the demotion would depend upon the seriousness of the crime. So an Adolf Hitler would certainly find himself as an amoeba, and after a while a water bug being chased by minnows, whilst lesser offenders would find themselves as farmyard pigs being fattened for slaughter or whatever. There was, however, a way out of this system of restarts at lower life forms. If a man who had committed a capital crime stopped running, came forward and surrendered himself, then he was rewarded. The Druids, as the administrators of the law, would duly execute the confessed criminal, but he was guaranteed to return to his next life as a human being. This avoidance of the centuries of toil moving up the ladder of life was apparently a valued form of pardon. This voluntary submission for punishment for a crime was known as Enaid Vadai. The laws of Dunwell Moelmud, Donald the Bald, it's the Moelmudian laws, specify that the penalty was beheading, or hanging, or being burned alive, the choice being made by the king or the lord of the territory. The idea seems to have been that Enaid Vadai appropriated God, and so the reincarnated soul was not placed in so lowly a position as might otherwise have been the case. A murderer who escaped punishment and died a natural death would return in a transmigratory life at a very low level in the order of life. His soul would descend into an animal corresponding to his disposition at the end of his life. Since the divine being wishes every human to be saved, then whatever is done to promote that objective and to bring it about speedily must be pleasing to the God. Some human souls would need to experience several human lives before they finally graduated to their ultimate goal as an angelic soul in the circle of Gwynford. The belief was therefore one involving reincarnation and the transmigration of the soul. Every soul finally gets to the desired level of the circle of Gwynford. The good soul finally entered the heavenly bliss of the circle of Gwynford, while the soul of the evil man was recycled back through existences in the Abred. Humanity is a state of liberty where the human can catch itself to either good or evil by choice. The circle of Coigant was the dwelling place of God, and no soul could aspire to enter this hallowed circle of Coigant, where only God himself lived. In British Druidism and Bardism, there was only one God. The notion that there were multiple gods in the British religious scheme may have originated in the untenable supposition that the British and Celtic Druid faiths were the same. It may also have arisen from the Roman habit of explaining the nature of other religions in the same pattern as their own: Jupiter, Juno, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Poseidon, Plato, Saturn, etc., i.e. with a pantheon. The adoption of basic Christianity into the British Druidic faith would appear to stem from a massive impression that might have been made on at least some Druid minds by the idea that Jesus, or Yesi, the Nazarene, voluntarily submitted himself to the fate of a sacrificial Enaid Vadai, whilst being an innocent man who had committed no crime. It is fairly clear from the secret messages that the sacrifice was necessary to save the city of Jerusalem in case Pontius Pilate declared a state of insurrection, as was to happen almost 30 years later in AD 70, and finally in AD 132 to 135. There was no hell as a place of horrific suffering and torment for millions of years in the British Druidic religion. There was simply a place of near non-existence where the soul lingered as if in a coma, unable to advance and develop towards the angelic state of the circle of Gwynford. So there was no blackmail threat future of endless torture from an avaricious and greedy clergy. All this brings the investigation back full circle to the subterranean mosaic on the wall of the mausoleum of the Julii beneath the high altar of St. Peter's in Rome. Here Jesus is shown riding in the chariot of the sun. Modern interpretations have been that Jesus is here represented by Sol Invictus, whereas he may have been shown to have simply entered the abode of the sun to join his God, his Father. The rabbis of Judea also believed in reincarnation and transmigration of the soul, but this ancient belief was quietly set into silence around AD 1000 to avoid arousing even harsher Christian persecutions. Alan Wilson was amazed when he attended a lecture in Columbus, Georgia in 1992 given by Dr. John Ross of the Lakota Sioux. To listen to Dr. Ross describing the Sioux beliefs, which included circles which closely matched the circles of inculation of the ancient British Druid faith. So maybe some more clues there that it was the Welsh migration in the 6th century, which reading this again has just been absolute joy. And I'm picking up more and more details every time, and I'm going to be passing on some of those stories soon. So please remember to do all the buttons, press notifications, subscribe so you see the next bits. Lots coming. So I hope you enjoyed that, got you thinking. I love the comments, so please keep them coming. Till next time, Heddwch.